Hey, this is Blaze. We're here at the Union Rescue Mission. We're about to do a piece on the situation with homelessness and in particular bathrooms. There are thousands of people on Skid Row and approximately 5 bathrooms. We need to do something about that, something humane. All right, Blaze out. Next, Andy Bales.
I'm Andy Bales. I'm the CEO of Union Rescue Mission, downtown LA, right on Skid Row. We've been here as of January 1st, will be 125 years on the streets of Skid Row. And I've been asked to comment on the restrooms and the state of homelessness on Skid Row. And I can tell you that right now, unfortunately, the sidewalks are used as the restrooms. Business owners all throughout Skid Row, their buildings are getting destroyed by the urine. It's, you know, acidic and it's eaten through the buildings and the paint. And so I rolled out today to talk to everybody that's out in tents out there to let them know that they can be first in line to come into our Thanksgiving dinner if they'll just make way for everybody that gets in line on Saturday. And I was rolling by puddles of urine 3 feet from the self-cleaning restroom. It gets used as a brothel and a shooting gallery rather than the intended effect. And I think they were $600,000-700,000 each, but that's not the way they're used. At least in front of the Union Rescue Mission, right. at least around the corner. You know, the ones that I've seen are unfortunately nearby have not been used as they are intended. And Skid Row's population is absolutely at an all-time high. And I've been, although I've only been in this job nearly 11 years, I've been working around and helping on Skid Row for 15 years. And so in the last 15 years, we're at an all-time high of numbers of people. In fact, I believe it has doubled in the last 2 years. I know some people have said it's gone up 12% or whatever. I know that we used to be nearing 1,000. And then 2 years ago, we were at 2,000. And now I believe there's 4,000 people living in tents and boxes. It doesn't seem to be, you know, rocket science that we need more restrooms, but that we need a secure way. And I'm sure there's more innovations than that. Perhaps cameras guarding the door and letting people in, you know, from one office. Somebody could be securely saying, hey, one person at a time, use it as a restroom, and open the door and let the person come out when they have finished their business. But we've got to come up with an innovative way to allow human beings to have restroom facilities on the streets of Skid Row.
Also,
right.
In my research on toilets, the impression I get is that from, if I just read it, I've never been in Skid Row, didn't know anything, and I just read it, I would think that the people in Skid Row were drug addicts or prostitutes. Let's clarify how many people are actually out of their heads. And it's not just prostitutes and
no. I
mentally ill or rampant.
I don't want to indicate that everybody on Skid Row is using drugs or alcohol, because it's a few that are using drugs and alcohol, and the gangs that are in charge who are using these restrooms the way they weren't intended. But that keeps everyone else, those who are suffering from mental affliction or those who've just ended up with, you know, unfortunate straits. And you know, I think it was mentioned that somehow all of these restrooms get shut down around the country in metropolitan areas because of this happening, and so the restrooms go away. And I believe it's probably intended, unfortunately, that the restrooms go away because we want the people to go away. Whereas the truth is, we ought to be worried about helping the people get off the streets, and then there would be no need for the restrooms. And I'm feeling like LA has arrived at a point, it won't be a city any longer that wants to just shut down the restrooms and cause the people to move away or drift to another section of the city or leave town. I think the City Council, as of recently, in their declaration of a shelter crisis, is admitting, hey, it's time to do something for the people. It's time to put a roof over people who are experiencing homelessness, put a roof over their head. And you know, that's needed in LA, because LA only puts a roof over 25 to 30% of the people experiencing homelessness. That means they leave 70% of the people experiencing homelessness out on the street. We don't just need more restroom facilities, although we do. We probably need a mobile restroom and shower facility, and I just talked to one of the city councilmen about possibly providing that. But we need actual places for people to move into. Everybody wants us to crack down on everybody on the sidewalks, get them off the sidewalks, but how do you do that when there's nowhere to go? There is nowhere to go in LA. All the missions are full, they're at capacity. There aren't missions around the region. We need to regionalize services throughout the county. We need to take on the empty county facilities. The old county hospital, the Martin Luther King Hospital, sit empty. McLaren Hall sits empty. The juvenile home sits empty. The poor farm in Downey that used to help people during the Depression sits empty. And we could leverage the city-county money that's being proposed, and we could immediately take 3,900 people off the streets into 365, 24/7. The kind of care that happens here at the Union Rescue Mission could happen right now for many people. And it could happen tonight if we just, you know, had the courage to make it happen. And I'm grateful that the City Council is showing that kind of courage.
All right, we're going to run outside.
Outside's fine, whatever you want.
I'm just thinking.
All right. Okay. Yeah, we're out here on the street in front of Union Rescue Mission on the sidewalk.
Stop lying.
And we're heading over by the self-cleaning restrooms that I found out about after I accepted the position here, and I found out one of my predecessors had agreed with the city to place it here, and I thought, oh no, because without proper security, I knew this restroom would not be utilized as a restroom.
Now, before we look at it, let's turn around and discuss the tents. This is just your one block, and we have all these tents. Tell us a little bit about this phenomenon. It wasn't always like this.
We used to have an agreement. There was an agreement between the city and folks experiencing homelessness that they would take down the tents at 6 a.m., put them up at 9 p.m. so they'd have a shelter until enough housing was built. Well, that housing, I think it was attempted to be built, never came to an agreement. And then in the midst of that, the police kind of went over the top, and they destroyed some tents and some belongings inside those tents. And so that agreement, I think it was called the Jones Agreement, went away. That 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. agreement went away, and now it's just tents all day long, every day, throughout Skid Row. And with the increase in the numbers of people came the increase in the number of tents.
All right, we're going to go take a look at this toilet, and I'm going to let you go. But first, you're in a wheelchair, Reverend Andy. You have a boot on your foot, and so something happened to you. I just want you to explain what your doctor says it was. And that's that.
So what happened was I got a transplant, a kidney transplant, to save my life, lowered my immunity. So everybody needs to know that. And 5 weeks later, after the transplant, I did a triathlon. I got a blister. The blister turned into a wound. The wound was just about healed, and somehow my doctor says by walking around on the streets of Skid Row or riding my bike here, it was one or the other, I picked up 3 flesh-eating diseases: staph, strep, and E. coli. And and E. coli comes from human waste, which is present on the ground all around Skid Row. This sidewalk is used as the restroom because this self-cleaning restroom, they're not sufficient.
What, they're not even sufficient if they were being used.
If they were being used for that purpose, there's not a sufficient number. there's not sufficient security to make sure they're rightly used. And that's not the big question. The big question is, why are so many precious people on the streets in the first place, who not only should have a restroom, but they should have a roof over their heads of some kind.
Oh, in closing, I also meant to ask, so what is the condition of your foot now? Because I read one point was real bad. I mean, what's happening?
Yeah, a year and a month ago, my life was in danger. I had not only the gaping wounds in my foot, but I had gangrene. I had a blood infection all the way to my waist. I had a high fever. I was on antibiotics for 8 weeks. It took months and months for the infection to go away. It took the removal of a bone. And after the removal of a bone, I got complications, which is called Charcot foot, C-H-A-R-C-O-T. That only diabetics, type 1 diabetics and lepers often get. And that is when your bones, your foot flares up, turns bright red, gets hot, and it self-demolishes. Well, now, not only do I have Charcot foot, I have Charcot foot and ankle, which means my foot and ankle are self-demolishing, and the joints are ruined, the bones are ruined. There is no surgical procedure to fix this. All I can do is baby it until the eventuality is that someday, if I live long enough, I will lose my foot and ankle.
So let's also tell them what happened in 2012, where you got transplant from, and about the triple bypass.
So 2012, I had heart and kidney failure. And I couldn't get a kidney transplant because my heart was bad, and I couldn't get my heart fixed because my kidney would go completely bad. So the Lord fixed that. I had to raise, I think, $4.8 million in the last 37 days of the year, and we raised $5.8 million in the last 37 days, and then I had a heart attack. So they had to fix my heart, a quadruple bypass, which wiped out my kidneys. Then I had to go on dialysis for 4.5 months. I kept working. And then my wife stepped forward and gave me a kidney, saved my life. Yeah, she saved my life, and I returned. I set a world record I came back to work 3 weeks after my kidney transplant, and I kept going. And I kept going when I had this happen to my foot. I just traded in my car for a hand control car. And when the little boy asked me if I live in a big house, I live in a big house, a big old house without heat and without air conditioning. In Pasadena, and I have 400 gang members who live on my block. I'm surrounded by people experiencing poverty, so I'm not necessarily living large. I'm living, as I told him, I'm living blessed by the Lord. He's certainly too good to me to even allow me to keep working here on the streets of Skid Row and at Union Rescue Mission, which is a wonderful place.
All right, and thank you very much for this interview here on Skid Row. We'll come back for a more detailed explanation of some of the things we can do about the tent people and all this poverty and all these people. They have to urinate, they have to defecate somewhere.
Absolutely.
They must.
Yes, and they can do that best in an organized, healthy living environment that had shower and bathroom facilities. Even if it's a tent city with porta potties and showers, that's the least anybody deserves. Smiley.
All right, so
thanks.
We can walk on back and I'll unplug you from the big old porta potty. You know, they're all over the world. I can't figure out why people put 6,000 or 60, whatever ridiculous amount of money.
600,000 or 700,000.
Yeah, they're like all over the world. I'm a bit suspicious. I'm serious. They're all over the world. And they don't seem adequate.
Maybe if they even made it a quarter pay or 50 cents or whatever.
Yeah, see, I gotta listen to somebody, the president.
Yeah.
How you feeling?
What's your name?
I'm Tremino.
Tremino, nice to meet
Yes,
you.
sir.
Andy.
I had to shake your hand. I got you on that one. Because we sure got a lot of good stuff out of this right here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
the ones grateful. Okay, what's your name?
Andy.
Okay, Andy.
Thanks,
now I
Tremino.
know what I write when I have good problems.
When you have a problem with cinnamon, right?
No, she best. No problems there. Not even here.
All right, thanks a lot. Let me unhook you.
Thanks, Michael.
So this is it from Blaze. We're here on Skid Row signing off.
from the Union Rescue Mission, the heart of Skid Row, right on San Pedro and 5th. Blaze out.